Hey everyone. Sorry, I'm just trying to get something situated on my phone. And so we're going to be doing things a little bit differently today because I was originally going to be doing stuff traditionally. And it was just like after seeing someone today who has been basically asking me to look over whatever it is that they have in their sketchbook because they've just recently started to get back into drawing. He didn't have a sketchbook with him today, uh, but it made me think about the importance of having a sketchbook, which I will tell you why. Um, so here's mine. Unfortunately, I can't show what's inside here, and that's just because there's some spoiler-y things that are in here for a book that I'm working on, so can't show any of that. Uh, but the thing is that like there is so much uh, importance of having a sketchbook because it's not about the finished product; it's about getting the idea down uh, and working with that. So I decided to pull up Clip Studio and basically try to do some stuff inside there. And also had one or two questions that people have asked me this week, both in person and in a comment section. So I'm going to answer those in just a second. And I'm going to do this one thing real quick, and then we will get back to what it is that I am going to continue on working on. So if you can just hang on. Let me know if there's any issues with mic level or anything like that. And let's see here. Okay, awesome. So I basically pulled up Clip Studio, and I've actually had a couple of people, talk to me about, sketchbooks. Some of them, they like to doodle. Other people are really into digital art, but they apparently just never um, kept up with the traditional side of stuff, or they just decided to forsake traditional altogether. And so I basically just said that when it comes to traditional art, or just even having a sketchbook in general, you can't control Z your way out of stuff. And by that, I mean, you can't just automatically click the undo button every single time. I mean, yeah, sure, you've got an eraser, which is fine. Uh, but it's in the moments of just like learning how to draw traditionally that you start to understand uh, how different materials work with, other materials, basically. Because you can have like a run the mill uh, pocket size sketchbook with a cheap uh, mechanical pencil and still churn out some awesome stuff. And then complete opposite side of the coin, you can basically have um, the top stuff and still be able to turn out something. Uh, could be good, could be bad, but yeah. So what I decided to do was basically pull up Clip Studio. So people that happen to have like you know whatever tablet that they have on them, and they have made the excuse of, well, what's the point if I'm just going to be doing this stuff, traditionally? What's the point of me having a sketchbook? So I said, okay, well, start a new file, label it sketch 001. That's your sketchbook. Start there. That is your page one. And the thing is that you don't need to be spending uh, 3 hours on a thing. You know, literally, shrink it down. Each doodle being no longer than 10 minutes. Don't fully render stuff. Just focus on just warming up your hand, whether it's just, doing a circle the entire time. Or maybe you're going to start working on three-dimensional spaces. And then within that three-dimensional space, you're going to be thinking about light sources. And within that, that's your practice. But the thing is that, like, there's just so much that you can, do within that time period. And yet, believe it or not, you do it enough, you're going to be able to, churn out some really awesome stuff. And you'll look back on it, after a year, 2 years, and you realize, wow, I actually did do a lot of growth because I wasn't doing the same stuff over and over and over and over again. But the other reason for the importance of having a sketchbook is that when you're starting off drawing, you need to get into the repetitive motion of just understanding simple things like anatomy. Obviously, if you're going to be getting into comics, you need to learn how to draw people. I cannot tell you how many comic artists, and we're talking pros in the industry, they're awesome at like drawing just guys, but they can't draw women to save their life. Sometimes complete opposite. Very rare you're going to have artists now that can actually do both, and it's actually good. And it doesn't look like a caricature, or it doesn't look like it's disingenuous to any gender of character that you're drawing. And even more so, within you're learning how to do anatomy. I'm going to do a little side note right here. Start learning how to do clothing. We're talking period, clothing. We're talking modern day. You might just like doing it because you like doing fashion, and you want to get into clothing design and stuff like that. Perfect time to do it. Just go for it. Within your learning how to do clothing, you're also going to be learning something really important that gets often overlooked: folds. And we're talking about the folds in clothing. So if you're looking at me right now, you're going to be seeing that there's shadows where my hoodie basically is like folding. So you get to see light source and shadow, with me right there. So I mean, that's important. That's really something that a lot of people just aren't paying attention to. That was something that I was scared to do for the longest time because I just didn't understand how to do it. And so the more I started working on that, the more I actually started to get used to it. And then I started finding other ways to try to do the same thing, uh, but with less strokes of the pencil, or um, not spending as much time having to render it, but yet still getting the same idea. Uh, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It just depends on the caliber of patience that you're going to be exhibiting in order to do this. So within, working on this, the next thing you should be working on is landscapes. Having a good sense of, uh, you know, buildings. Whoop. Almost couldn't spell there. Uh, environments. This is one of these moments where the hooked on phonics thing just kind of pops in my head. But yeah, buildings, environments. And then within that, you start learning about perspective. So the environments of which you're putting characters in, whether it's you're studying real life, or which, to be honest, is the best reference you can ever have, or you're doing, fantasy or sci-fi, um, you know, understanding the environments of which your characters are going to be exhibiting themselves in is just as much as a character in and of itself. You do need to understand how to draw trees of many different kinds. You need to understand how to draw mountainsides, whether they're in a desert or in a densely wooded forest area like the Appalachians. Um, or you could be drawing snow environments and learning how to uh, show convincingly looking rockside formations while snow is draping off from one side to the other. Stuff like that. You really do need to learn how to do that sort of stuff. Or maybe you like drawing, underwater environments. So you kind of need to know how a coral reef kind of looks. Um, and of course, when you start getting to the perspective side of it all, you start learning about the rule of threes, which is basically what's going to be in the foreground, the background, and the middle ground, and how you're able to render stuff so the eye can understand how everything works. So it's really, again, another important thing to do. If you spend 30 minutes a day learning how to draw uh, landscapes, uh, and it doesn't matter if it's you know the the bank that you go to, or your favorite restaurant, um, an old church that you just happen to, or any religious house of prayer that you just happen to go by and you like the architecture of it. Take 10, 15, even 30 minutes and just try to, sketch that out. Doesn't have to be a masterpiece, but as long as you can get the idea of what this is on, your tablet or your piece of paper, that's all that matters. Uh, you know, like I said, buildings and environments, those are about as much of a main character as the main characters that you have in your comics. Um, and, if for some reason you're not able to, you live in such a rural area, so you're like 2 hours away from like actual big city life. Well, what do you do? Well, you got Google Maps, man. It's just you've got that. There are photography accounts that are out there. Uh, people taking pictures of landscapes, buildings, everyday bustling life. You can learn so much from all these different photography accounts that are on Instagram or Facebook, Blue Sky, wherever. So I highly recommend looking at all of that. And then we're going to go even further uh, with just challenging yourself, a little bit each day, just sketching this stuff out. You're thinking, well, what else could be next? Well, I'll tell you what's going to be next. And that is characters interacting. This is actually a lot harder than you think it is. And this is actually something that you'll definitely have to take time out of your day and actually just try to work it out in your sketchbook. And that's the another big thing of why having a sketchbook is so important. Because, like I said, it's not supposed to be, masterpiece after masterpiece after masterpiece, in your sketchbook. This is your works in progress, the stuff you do behind the scenes before you start working on, a commission piece or uh, the next graphic novel or the next work for hire or the next mural, whatever. I can't tell you how awkward it is to look at some comics and see what looks like someone has used stock photo reference and then they basically they drop down the opacity of it and then they drew over it and uh, that was the panel that they used. It's really awkward looking. It really is. It's just the interaction between the characters looks very fake. It doesn't look very natural. It doesn't look very relaxed or tense, depending on the story. Um, but yeah, it's. I don't want to name names and I don't want to name books, but they are out there. But yeah, having characters trying to interact, it can be tough. It really can, especially if there's like a lot going on in the scene where there's like multiple people doing stuff. It can be hard. It really can. But it doesn't mean that you should skip out on it. Uh, looks like. Hey, Chris. You can even draw fan art of me. You know? Sure. Why not? Um, before I forget, I'm going to have to do the part that is pulling teeth for some, but you know what? It's going to be quick and painless. Uh, if you happen to like the show and any show that we happen to do at Haven Comics, just make sure you like and subscribe, and you can find me on here. And I'll leave this little ticker going on. But I'm going to go ahead and answer a question that was put in the comments on Facebook. And it was basically regarding Warhammer, specifically 40K. But the question basically was what all I've been up to regarding Warhammer. And the short answer is not a lot, at least within the tabletop gaming side of it all. And part of that was just because there's just been a lot of stuff going on in life, so I haven't really had time to make time to go and uh, you know play a game, and of course also freshen myself up with the new and updated rules between different factions and stuff. But um, outside of that, uh, I actually got to play and own uh, Bolt Gun, which was a lot of fun. Just mindless fun. So if you like Doom, like old school Doom or Castle Wolfenstein, you're going to like Bolt Gun. And I did during the Black Friday sale purchase Road Trader. However, I had to stop myself playing Road Trader. I was probably maybe 2 hours into that game. Um, no, well, I take that back. That doesn't sound accurate. More like 5, but um, I had to stop playing it just because I need to finish my playthrough of Baldur's Gate 3, which I haven't done yet. And so I've got to finish it up real quick. But I've tried to keep myself updated with, current lore with little things here and there. I did watch the secret level episode of Space Marine. Definitely enjoyed it. I like how they kept the continuity thing going on with Titus. And of course, the secret level episode actually predates the first Space Marine game that came out for the 360. Um, but it also comes at a really good time because Space Marine 2 dropped maybe like a month or so ago. I'm actually going to wait a couple of months before I even delve into the second game. But I do like the new updates regarding gameplay and um, changing up your armor to match faction houses and stuff like that. Warhammer is a full-time job. Okay, so the secret level thing, it's really not a spoiler thing because I'm not going to spoil anything that goes on, but I will say it's definitely a prequel before the first um, Space Marine game. But even if you don't play the first Space Marine game, you kind of get that fill in Space Marine 2 regarding the character because Titus actually ends up stuck with the Inquisition after the events of Space Marine 1, and his ranking gets busted down from captain down to, I believe, lieutenant or sergeant. I can't remember. I want to say sergeant. Um, but um, but he wasn't with the Ultramarines at the beginning of Space Marine 2. Apparently, he has been serving his penance with the Death Watch, and they're basically kind of like Black Ops, Navy SEALs type characters. And they're also technically chapter houses linked with the Inquisition, sort of loosely. But yeah, no, it's really good stuff. Actually, speaking of secret level, there was only a couple of episodes that I really wanted to watch. So the D&D, Sifu, uh, Space Marine, and Armor Core, which I definitely enjoyed all of those. The D&D one I felt like it should have been like a Baldur's Gate and not just strictly D&D, because I felt more Baldur's Gate, or it felt like something that you would see in Baldur's Gate 3. And maybe that's just because I've been playing it so much. And I've unfortunately had to restart playing Baldur's Gate 3 so many times due to little incompetent failures on my end. And of course, I think it was when patch 7 came out. Apparently, it screwed up Gale not being able to recharge his spell slots after a long rest. and it was weird. Um, so I had to like completely start all over again, which is totally fine. Let's see, Justin got done putting together Morphin Vol and Redemptor Dreadnought. Yes, I actually do have a Redemptor Dreadnought kit. I just have not built it yet. Um, and I also just barely beat Baldur's Gate 3. Awesome. So the last time that I was like really hardcore playing Baldur's Gate 3, I actually did make it technically near the end of Act 1. But I decided to do a detour through the Underdark so I can try to do the whole Night Song mission into Saloon Towers and Moonrise Towers and all that. And then it had been so many months, I just kind of forgot like plot line and so many other different things. So that just caused me to restart uh, everything all over again, which is totally fine because I knew exactly what I'm getting into, but I just decided to change up my class. So I am playing a half elf bard. Music instrument is a lute, which makes sense because I play guitar. Um, and School of the Sword, so I'm a duelist. And I basically made my character look like a musketeer. And yes, I named him Porthos. So uh, it's really hard to find blue dye because I'm trying to um, at least in Act One, there's only like four vials of blue dye that you can find in one spot, and so I'm using them sparingly on armor sets just to make my character look like a musketeer. But it's been fun. Yeah, I have a lot of fun with Rogue Trader. It took me a while to get used to the fact that there's a hell of a lot more text to read compared to BG3 because you don't have that like one-on-one CGI interaction or cutscene kind of interaction thing that Baldur's Gate 3 has. So yeah, there's a lot of reading to do, and I'm thankful that they went the extra mile to actually include lore within the 40k universe, so that if people have no clue what exterminatus means, that they can just click on that and it explains it. There was like one thing I had no clue about, and it was some sort of item, which I just now forgot what it was. But anyways, apparently it was some sort of alcoholic beverage that apparently exists. So it was just like, oh, never heard of this before. Okay. And you are a man after my own heart because I am also Blood Angels all the way. Um, I will see if I could try to make this story short. So I have known about Warhammer and 40k stuff since I was in 8th grade. So this is going on more than 20. It's definitely more than 25 years. But that's how long I've known about Games Workshop stuff. But I never officially played a game of 40k until 2020. Because I just thought, this is a good time for me to sit down and try to learn how to play the stuff, build it, paint it, whatever. And it worked, it made sense. I had a lot of time. Now it's the complete opposite. So, but yeah, definitely enjoy Blood Angels. Definitely enjoy um, the, I guess, just the weird choice of like some days you kind of want to be the Flesh Terrors or just have like a Flesh Terrors kill team, and the other times you want to just have Blood Drinkers. Um, so yeah, For those of you who are not knowing exactly what I'm talking about, the Blood Angels are basically the vampire chapter within the Space Marines in the 40K universe. If you want to know more about it, just go on Games Workshop's website or just shoot me a message and we will talk Blood Angels. uh, I definitely know several people that are. I probably have ran across more people that were like only into Space Wolves and Death Watch and Dark Angels. Uh, very few people had any interest at all with the, Ultramarines. Definitely, for some reason, no one was into Blood Angels. I don't know why. And but yeah, the first time I ever read anything regarding 40K stuff was actually a 40K comic called Obvious Tactics. It's a small comic, black and white, written and drawn by Steve Pugh. I highly recommend if you go on Amazon or maybe Thrift Books to hunt it down for sure. It should be not even $20. Um, but it's gorgeous. It is dark, pulpy, sci-fi goodness, and the two main characters were Blood Angels. One of them was a sergeant, and the other one was a librarian. And the whole point of it was they're trying to escape a planet that's apparently about to get eradicated. And they run into an assassin. I think it's a Cadius assassin. I think that's her. I'm not even sure exactly if it's considered a school or a house or what, but yeah. So, anyways, it's the three of them, and apparently, they come to find out that the citizens of this planet are basically in cahoots with Nurgle, and it's just fighting cultists and spawns of Nurgle and all this sort of stuff happening, and it's a lot of fun. I don't really want to say that there is a resolve at the end of it. I mean, there is, but it's really not the resolve that one would think about or maybe hope for. But in the sense of the story and everything that kind of happens between the characters, it makes sense. But yeah, fun times down memory lane. So, okay, that's interesting. Well, okay, I guess that makes sense because if I remember correctly, the what's the name of the Dark Angels Primarch? Uh, it starts with an L. I don't remember the name. I almost said Lino, and that's not right. um, it starts with an L, but if I remember correctly, I want to say the Primarch for the Dark Angels came back to life. The Lion, right? Okay, yeah. But yeah, Lionel Johnson. Okay, yeah. Um, but yeah, like his character came back to life, so I can definitely see where the resurgence and the popularity regarding that. Um, I have often heard that the Dark Angels and the Raven Guard are basically the emo kids of the 40K universe. Yeah, so characters interacting, that's definitely one that I feel like anyone should have to sit down and learn how to do, um, especially in a sketchbook, and it doesn't have to be, fighting scenes all the time. While it is important to do if you're doing, action or superhero stuff, it would make sense. But something as simple as like the way they sit in a chair, the way that they're um, drinking coffee, or uh, how they carry themselves, stuff like that is, I don't really want to say invaluable, but I would say more so to the fact that it lends itself a gravity within your drawing vocabulary and how you're trying to present a character within an overarching part of a story, even if it's just a single picture. Having characters do different things, and you can see the interaction, and your eyes are basically kind of reading the room and seeing everything that's kind of going on. It makes sense, and there's no reason to slack off on that. Um, but yeah, so four on top of characters interacting, uh, this is where it's going to get really interesting. Um, and this is also one that I really like doing: textures. You're probably wondering, that's a really strange thing to start doing in your sketchbooks, but I'm a big fan of textures. Anyone that has seen my stuff, uh, they're always saying something regarding, how I render things here and there. And part of that is just because some of my influences, they do a lot of interesting texture work. And that's, Western artists like Adam Hughes, Terry Dodson, Frank Cho, um, Stuart Eminem. Those guys, they really know how to do textures. And then even guys like Dan Panosian, um, they are very well rounded when it comes to approaching stuff, when it comes to fabric and environments and stuff like that. And they really know how to uh, make your eye convincingly see and interpret to the fact of, oh, hey, that's a wood panel, or that looks like a scratchy burlap material, or this looks like an old stone that's been weathered by the waves, just random stuff like that. Uh, and you can technically go to the nth degree with textures, to the point that you're, Travis Charest or Richard Corbin, which is fine and all. There's nothing wrong with that. I think it just really kind of boils down to the fact of if you want to go down that route, or you can keep it super simple, like Mike Mignola, um, or Alex Toth. Those two, I feel like, are the greatest examples of showing a lot by not doing a lot. And if you don't know what I mean, if you've ever read Hellboy, then you definitely understand what Mike Mignola is all about. Or Fafnir and the Grey Mouser. That's also another good example. Um, and with Richard Corbin, any of the stuff that sorry, not Richard Corbin, Alex Toth. I highly recommend that you try to find his Black Canary story, or his Zorro stuff that he did back in the day. Perfect examples. And of course, he has the very infamous quote that I sometimes have to tell myself when I get lost in the sauce, if you will. which is basically just strip everything down to his basics and just draw the hell out of it. And it's still golden advice. I can't say enough good things about Alex Toth. Which there are, if you want to learn more about Alex Toth, he actually, I don't know if it's the estate or um, someone else is putting it all together, but there are two different books that have been put out within the last couple of years. One of them is a bit more of a overall biography, and the other one is more of a uh, honing in on the artwork. Find the artwork one for sure. That's just because it's extremely good, and it kind of shows you the breadth and the scope of everything that he did, not just in comics but also in animation. Because I can bet you dollars to donuts that some of the classic animation stuff that came out through Hanna Barbera, uh, Alex Toth was working on it. So, um, but getting into the whole texture things, um, it's in that moment in textures that you kind of start learning about other stuff. So obviously, um, environmental textures. So that's wood, rocks, brick, steel. Definitely learning about how to convincingly draw chrome or even liquid metal if you're getting to like sci-fi and stuff like that. Uh, it's great stuff to try to sit down and learn how to do it. I think the one artist that does the whole liquid chrome thing uh, the best is Jim Cheung. Um, just look how he draws Iron Lad in Young Avengers. Uh, is probably my top example when it comes to that sort of stuff. And he's also an artist that never gets talked about a lot, just within circle of friends. But I'm always, name dropping him whenever I can. Uh, I highly recommend finding the stuff he did with CrossGen with a book called Scion. There's a lot of texture stuff in there. It's really good. And I feel like his art style is that balance between um, the things that you would see with guys like it's like stuff that you would see from like 90s image but stripped down to that almost Mignola or Tothism. But yet he also knows when to push forward with the rendering and the detail and stuff like that. So textures, environmental textures. Um, the other thing you should work on regarding textures is actually going to be elemental textures, and that's everything from um, how to draw water, fire, uh, dust in the wind, or just wind in general, fog, um, snow. Um, I guess leaves as well. I mean, it's important, especially if you're doing like a lot of like forest stuff or leaves blowing in the wind because it's fall, winter, whatever. Uh, but if you're doing comics that happen to have like a lot of like elemental power ups and stuff like that, or you've got it's a fantasy comic and you've got wizards and sorcerers using the power of the elements to you know use for their spells and stuff like that. Oh, lightning, that's another good one. Uh, that's also something that for some reason, whenever you look at how to draw books and stuff like that, you really don't see that talked a lot or at all. I think the only time I've ever seen anything come close to that ever being brought up in a drawing book was actually a one of the official How to Draw manga books that was actually released back in the early 2000s. Um, and that book in general, which I wish I could remember which volume that it was, that one actually just kind of made me sit and think about uh, different ways to try to uh, show how to do this one thing, because like you can't, okay, that's wrong. You technically could, but you can't exactly draw a fireball and it also be the same way that you draw like Sub Zero doing like an ice blast. It's just you can't use the same thing twice, and it's supposed to interpret two separate different things. It doesn't work like that. So you really have to sit and think about, uh, you know, how would you, draw this, and someone can look at it and understand. Oh yeah, well, this is an icicle and not a carrot. So it's definitely something that should definitely be looked at a lot more. There is a French artist. His name's I hope I don't butcher his name. Matthew Lafray, and he has done this. Well, actually, I think he's still doing them. He's been doing this series of pirate comics regarding Long John Silver, and there's like a sequel of events that happen with a different character in that same timeline. But the way he draws water and mist and all that stuff, you just look at the black and white stuff, which, by the way, he has an Instagram account. Um, it's beautiful, and your eyes automatically know exactly that, okay, this is what he's drawing, and I can interpret just in black and white that this is the crashing of the waves and not someone sneezed in a bakery. um, it's really really good stuff, and you would think that this stuff would automatically be taught, in uh, advanced art classes in high school or in college, or I have no clue if this is something that they even talk about or teach in SCAD or Kubert. If someone has graduated or is still currently enrolled in that stuff, please let me know in the comments if this is something that actually does get taught about at some point in comic art and cartooning. If not, it should be. Um, but this is definitely something that you should definitely be doing in your sketchbook. Understanding how to do these type of textures. Um, and of course, the last one, which is definitely the most common one, and that's just rendering, and that's everything from uh, hatching, cross hatching, that's stippling. I'm assuming that's how it's spelled. Uh, no, carry the one. um, and if you even want to go even further, we've got the Kirby crackle, which I know that crackle is technically spelled with a C, but in this case, it's an entire technique of rendering. But uh, stuff like that is also something that kind of also needs to be done in your sketchbook. It doesn't matter if you take up an entire page or several pages, but just learning how to sit back and learn how to actually do this and make it work within the context of whatever it is that you're doing. Um, and that's everything from just understanding the tools that you have and the best way that you can try to get it across. So if you're someone that wants to be like Daniel Warren Johnson, only use a pocket brush, and you want to do hatching and cross hatching, go for it. It's going to take a while for you to get used to, uh, you know, the right amount of pressure and to make it work. It's possible. You're just going to have to take the time and actually do this. Stippling, people that like doing stippling, it's a great effect. It's very time consuming, but it's one of those things where surprisingly, it has its place in comics. It really does. But it's just one of those things that you don't really see often. But when it's used in good effect, and it when not overused, it's a beautiful effect too. And you can kind of get a stippling effect by using like an airbrush, or I'm pretty sure if you have like a sponge that just happens to have, um, it's not like a tight knit type sponge, one that's actually kind of like loose and has a bunch of holes in it. Just dip it in ink and then create a stippling effect off of it. That works. Kirby Crackle, if you don't know what that is, I'll just zoom this out just a little bit. Um, so, hatching, cross hatching, stippling. Kirby Crackle is when, um, let's say, for instance, you've got one line that just happens to be blacked out here, and another line that just happens to be blacked out there. And then what Jack Kirby would do is that he would um, do these circular patterns to create this almost cosmic um, type look. And weirdly enough, you can technically use Kirby Crackle in like a water type effect, which weirdly enough, you kind of see that in some stuff that the very few inked works that Frank Frazetta has done. Some of the stuff that John Bashima did, which he was that same era of Jack Kirby, but with like a wave crashing in, and the part where it's not the foamy part, but it almost kind of looks like a bit of a elongated Kirby Crackle. Um, that is something that also works in that effect. But um, of course, this is just really quick, stupid look of Kirby Crackle, but you get the idea. Again, if you want to see it even further, just type in Kirby Crackle on Google, and you'll see exactly what it is. But and this is another thing that just kind of needs to be done. And like I said, this goes back to what I was talking about the beginning of all of this. Uh, do not feel like you as a person that likes working digital only can't also have a sketchbook technically digitally. All you have to do is just open up a file, type sketch 001, and that's your first page. Don't worry if it's perfect. Don't worry about finding the right brush or whatever. Just use a simple pencil brush on whatever program that you're using, whether it's Clip Studio, Photoshop, Procreate, GIMP. Don't care. Just do it. Uh, not to sound like a Nike spokesperson, but seriously, just do it. Um, and then once you get done doing all that with that, save it. Even if it looks like complete garbage and you feel like it's a waste of time, save it. Next day, start a new one, sketch 002, and keep on doing it. Now, I've heard the excuse of, well, I only have so much room, on my computer, tablet, whatever. Okay, well, move all that stuff to Google Drive or Dropbox or send it to the cloud. Email it to yourself. There are other ways that you can find the room to do it. Just stop trying to use all of that room for your excuses to not, use a sketchbook. But while doing, sketchbook digitally, still a good thing. You can still technically do it. The importance of doing it traditionally and seeing how you can do it traditionally and then applying that to the digital side, that's invaluable. And I can't stress that enough as far as having a physical traditional sketchbook, I can't stress that enough. And like I said, you don't have to get the best one. The whole point is this thing is supposed to be your works in progress. It's not finished works. It's not masterpieces. This is you putting in the time, blood, sweat, and tears, frustrations, all that sort of stuff into the pages. And, you can go front and back with it all you want. But the point being is that, that's your homework. And this becomes your, your personal schooling without having to shell out a student loan, Um, but yeah, having a sketchbook, absolutely important. Now, almost an hour in, and this actually kind of goes into the second question, and this is something that two people this week have had this conversation with me in person at Haven, which is where I'm currently sitting in right now in the back. Regards to my sketchbook Between the Lines, which if you guys don't know what that is, hold on for one moment. Ugh. So, Between the Lines. Uh, some of the stuff in there is actually pencil stuff that came out from various different pages between 2019 through 2020, technically January 2022. But, there's stuff in there where it's just like, there is some pencil stuff and it's just work in progress stuff where I had an idea of, sketching out the thumbnail of, Moon Knight or Ghost Rider or, whatever. Ultraman having a, kaiju battle in the middle of downtown Tokyo or whatever. But again, it's a work in progress that just kind of popped in that moment. Opened up the sketchbook, thumbnailed it out, and that was it. And that's all you need. It doesn't always have to be the, you know, the prototype for, a print down the line or, the characters for, your next upcoming book that comes out or whatever. Um, but, again, it's just, working things out, understanding and figuring out how to, draw a character in an environment, the interaction, all that stuff. That stuff, it does work. And sometimes you do kind of want to, show off your thought process and that stuff and put it into an actual printed, sketchbook, which is technically an art book to a degree. um, for other people to see and take it home with them so that they can study it. Um, but the question was, Between the Lines, Volume 2, is it going to happen? So the answer to that short is yes. Kickstarter for that, January 2025. I have talked about it off and on in my newsletter on Substack. If you don't know what Substack is, it's just a free newsletter that I do once a month. The only times I've done more than one newsletter was just because of Soulstover back in October. And yeah, that was basically it. Uh, but I will be a little bit annoying about it starting the beginning of next year just because of that. But again, stuff from, two different previous sketchbooks, pencil stuff that I'll be doing will be in that sketchbook in a couple of pages. Obviously, finished pieces between 2022 to the end of this year. Those finished pieces will obviously be in there. But even with those finished pieces, I still had to thumbnail them out in a sketchbook, trying to understand how I'm going to uh, do the rendering of this particular kind of fabric, or working out the angle of how a character's holding a gun, or whatever. It still goes back to the basics of all the things I talked about as why having a sketchbook is important. So all this to say, an hour in, this stuff is important. And if you're in high school or middle school and you're you just happen to have like a small spiral ring sketchbook that you're just doodling in during class when you should be paying attention to whatever is supposed to be happening. And the only reason I can say that is because I did that. But the point being is that that is going to be the thing that you definitely need to do growing up in your formative years before you get to the college and you have to deal with pretentious professors and people that are only there to you know make you feel like you just wasted an entire student loan. Which I'm not saying this to be such a Debbie Downer. I'm really not, but there is some truth to it. But um, you know, I really do think that having a sketchbook is kind of like your art school without the student loan. But at the same time, if you happen to have that thing with you, and you happen to come across an artist of some kind, and ask them, do you do portfolio reviews? Or I happen to have my sketchbook on me. Would you like to look through it? Um, Tell me if there's something that I'm missing or don't understand. Uh, do not feel intimidated by not asking those questions. Whatever you do, don't just shove it in their face and be like, look at it. Uh, that's not going to go over well. But definitely ask the question of just like, do you happen to do portfolio reviews? If they say yes, happen to say, well, I happen to have mine on me, would you like to look through it? They say yes, hand it over. Or if you're a person that doesn't have a portfolio, um, but you happen to have a sketchbook on you, just be like, you know happen to have my sketchbook on me, could you look through it and tell me what's working, what isn't? um, Generally, yeah, they should be able to give you some pointers here and there. The last thing you should ever want to do is have a portfolio review or have your sketchbook looked at a person that kind of comes off like a yes man, um, and not giving you the ups and the downs of whatever it is that you're working on. And I know certain people in a certain Discord server that I'm in uh, definitely have heard um, my reviews on some stuff, um, which I don't try to come off as a grumpus whenever I am looking at some things, but it's just I am definitely saying it out of good faith, and you're with most of them. Some of these people are actually closer to the mark of where they were trying to get, but here's the push you need to get to that next section. So, um, but yeah, that is basically it. And I know that I was supposed to be doing actual artwork uh, with you guys tonight, but you know what? It's the holidays, it's Christmas, and after seeing that guy today, it just kind of made me think to myself, you know what? It wouldn't be such a bad idea if I switch things up at the last minute. And I'm kind of glad. Uh, Thankful for some of you that have chimed in today. Justin, Gerald, and Christopher, thank you so much for dropping in, saying hi. I'm going to end it off tonight. I hope all of you have a happy and safe holidays. And please remember, just because a certain person does not celebrate the winter holidays the same as you does not mean that you should be mean at them. So, everyone does everything differently at their own pace and time, and be respectful. That's all I have to say about that. All that being said, I want to end the show tonight by doing the typical housekeeping stuff that we usually do at the show, or any show that we do live. Haven Comics, located at 1871 Slaughter Road, Suite F in Madison, Alabama. We will be closed, and obviously on Wednesday because it is Christmas Day. But we will be open on Thursday at noontime. So that will be New Comic Book Day for everyone. So if you show up on Wednesday, doors closed, go home. But yeah, please remember to like and subscribe. If you happen to like the show or any other show that we do at Haven Comics, please do that. And obviously, if you want to find me on social media, that's where you can find me. Just type in at tprice.works in the search bar, and 9 times out of 10, you will find me there. If you go to my link tree, you will find all the places that you can find me on the internet. And the top one at the very top is actually my newsletter that I do for free once a month. Please sign up for that. I have noticed that out of the, I think it's like 40 people that have signed up for my newsletter, as of right now, it's looking like 2/3 of you are actually opening and reading the newsletter. And it looks like some of you haven't even opened them up at all. So make sure that whenever you're getting a notification that it's not in your spam folder. Cannot stress this enough. If you, for some reason, want to read this my newsletter on Substack without actually having to deal with searching through the spam folder, you can actually download the Substack app on your phone, either through the Google Play Store or the Apple Store, or you can go to the Substack website and read it there. Either way, that works. But just wanted to point that out and give you guys the solutions to work around that one. I will be bringing back my Patreon out of its unfortunate close to year-long slumber. uh, but I have talked about this in my newsletter, and I'm going to be releasing pages that I'll be working on a comic that I've been thinking about for about the last month or two regarding my love for rock and roll music. So it's also a bit of a slice of life comic too, so that's also something that's kind of outside of my wheelhouse of genres that I like to do. But you know what? We're doing it. So I'm going to be releasing pages for that soon, and obviously the Kickstarter for Between the Lines Volume 2 will be midway through January of 2025. I will let you guys know more about that once everything kind of gets compiled together and we're launching it. So hoping that that is successful enough that we can try to get that out there, have the physical copies for everyone, and also PDF formats, digital formats. So what was the last thing? I feel like there was one more thing that I needed to talk about. Oh yeah, I will be opening up commissions on December 26th, and that's just a early registration to try to do commissions starting in January 2025. So yeah, I will post about that on social media on December 26th. I'm only going to be opening a couple of slots for that, and all the info for that will be posted later. So all that being said, I hope you all have a good, safe, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, all that fun jazz. And I guess I will see you guys in 2025. Later.